Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio today by returning Ray Ora.
Oh, hey, everyone.
Jonathan Voico's here.
The champ is back. Hello, everybody.
And you guys are here. Thank you so much for watching this show, making it a part of your day. Here's how our show's going to go. We're going to start off by talking about some predetermined topics. And in the second part of the show, we're going to take questions that you guys have sent in to us via our tip link. If you have a thought, question, comment, observation, or theory that you'd like us to address on the show, as long as we consider it appropriate to be addressed on our show, go ahead and send it in anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. Now, today's show is not being done live. Normally, we do the John Campea Show podcast and stream it live. We're not able to do that today due to the fact that we've been having some internet issues due to our internet service provider, Spectrum, which I highly encourage everybody never use Spectrum. They're the worst. But we're still experiencing some problems. They promise us they're going to fix it in the next day or two. So until it's fixed, we'll pre-record the show, and that's what we're doing here today.
I think they owe us a sponsorship.
Oh, God, they owe us more than a sponsorship. They owe us straight up cash.
Yeah.
The amount of problems and headaches they've caused us. It's like straight up cash.
This show would end up being on the same level as the Lakers and Dodgers if we got sponsored by Spectrum.
Oh, man.
That's
Imagine
right.
that.
Lakers, Dodgers, the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that all down, let's jump into it, shall we? We've got a few things to cover today, so let's get things started with this. Ann and I were out with some friends last night, and the conversation came up about Harry Potter, and one of the persons, a huge Potter fan, said, I wonder if the Harry Potter fandom's in decline. No way. There's no way the Harry Potter fandom is in decline. It may plateau because we don't got new material coming out right now, but a lot of people are excited for this upcoming HBO relaunch of the Harry Potter series as a series. And if it had your curiosity, it got your attention when you found out who the showrunners were. Showrunners who have worked on shows like House of the Dragon and Succession and stuff like that. Like, they are getting absolute big heavyweights to come and work on this series. And it's going to be one season per book. So as a lot of Harry Potter fans have pointed out, it's going to allow the series to get into a lot of stuff that the movies never could. Because the movies had to be limited in the amount of runtime they had. And they were great, but this is going to allow the books to be breathed even more life into them. Well, on the John Campea Show, I don't like to get a lot into the whole topic of X actor and X role, but there's a fan casting that's been going around that I thought it would at least be fun just for a second to discuss. Because even some of the bigger outlets like Screen Rant are running this. Harry Potter. Adam Driver is the fans' #1 choice to play Snape in the HBO series. And it's funny because when I saw that headline, I had already seen a number of conversations happening online saying, there's only one person to play Snape. By the way, whenever somebody says there's only one person to play, they're wrong.
Yeah.
There are many, 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 many people who can play it. But again, the conversations are, there's only one person who can play Snape, Adam Driver. Now, even I, who am like not a X actor and X role conversation kind of guy, even I had to go, wait a minute. That's pretty good.
Isn't that a little too perfect? Isn't that...
That's the question. Isn't it too perfect?
Like where you hit the nail right on the head? That's like the one... There's no one else I could even see in that role anymore.
Now that somebody's mentioned it, it's hard to see anybody else, right?
Oddly enough, we were talking about Adrian Brody at the beginning of the show, and someone had been talking about Adrian Brody as being a possible
You know what?
Snape.
Listen, Academy Award-winning actor who's got great TV experience. He, of course, played Riley on Winning Time, the LA Lakers thing, and he was brilliant in that show. Again, he has an Academy Award, great actor. But I got to tell you, man, this Adam Driver one has really caught my imagination.
It's different.
Because, look, the first thing I always say I don't care about who they pick, about any casting. Just get somebody who's a really talented actor. Adam Driver doesn't have an Oscar on his mantle yet, but he's got nominations. He will have an Oscar on his mantle before his career's over. He's a fabulous performer. Even in movies that I haven't liked all that much, he always stands out. And that's the mark of a really good actor. When they're in a movie that's not even good, but they stand out in it,
Right.
Adam Driver does that. I don't care what anybody else says. I even like his movie 69. Sorry, not 69.
Oh, 65.
65.
69, dudes!
The 69 movie's a totally different animal. Was it good again? 65. That's right, with the dinosaurs.
With Adam Driver, that would have to be a very tall lady.
Okay. I didn't know we were going to go all the way there.
Now we're getting explicit. Now we're
Well, I mean,
describing
think about
everything.
it. The physics, yeah.
Hey, we get it.
So, but I'll tell you what, he's got the acting chops to pull it off.
Yeah.
I don't think getting somebody who looks like somebody else is important, but if you did, I mean, Adam Driver could easily pass as a slightly younger Alan Rickman.
And that voice.
And the voice.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to like, does he want to give up 6 to 7 years of his career?
Okay, now that's the thing, right? Because the other part of this headline is, will it happen?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the chances of it are extremely slim. The main reason I think it's slim, and to Screen Rant's credit, they point this out as well. The main reason it's an extremely slim possibility is Adam Driver going to commit to 6 or 7 years of playing this character when he could be off doing other passion projects. It's not that he couldn't do the series and do a few other movies at the same time, but his availability for other movies will be more limited. The second thing, besides the fact that I doubt Adam Driver would want to commit 6 to 7 years to doing this role, is while he is not commanding Robert Downey Jr. money right now, he would be an expensive piece of the puzzle, right? He wouldn't be cheap. Again, he's not a $10 million a movie guy, but he's a couple of $1 million. And how much would you have to pay him to commit 6 or 7 years to this?
There's also another factor I was thinking of, and this might be dumb or whatever, but do you think casting Adam Driver in that role, though Snape is an important character, would take a lot of the spotlight off of the things that they do want to highlight? Like, you know, like people will be watching. He may become bigger than, like the show. Like, let's say when Harrison Ford was cast in Captain America 4, now all I want to see is him now.
Yeah,
when I watch
see
that
what
movie.
you mean. Yeah.
Sure,
You know what I mean?
But here's a couple of examples, right? Speaking of Harrison Ford, he did this awful little movie with Gary Oldman and Liam Hemsworth, and where Liam Hemsworth was the lead. It's like where Liam Hemsworth is a hacker.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember the name of the movie.
Oh,
What's it,
man.
Black Hat?
No, that was the Chris Hemsworth one.
Yeah.
This is Liam Hemsworth.
Oh, Liam Hemsworth, sorry.
And so you had Gary Oldman and Harrison Ford as the secondary characters, but it never took away from Liam Hemsworth. The movie was bad. It was terrible, but it never took away from him. But even go back to the original Harry Potter, right? Alan Rickman was never a super A-list star in Hollywood, but he's a big name, right? And you had him in with all these brand new kids playing Harry and Hermione and Ron and all that kind of stuff. But that didn't take away from it.
Right.
So I think if he played the role right and the showrunners did it right, I don't think having somebody with a big name. I mean, you had royalty in the original Harry Potter movies with Richard Harris playing Dumbledore, and it didn't take away from the kids because they handled it right.
Paranoia was that movie.
Was the name Paranoia?
Yeah.
I never would have remembered. Horrible movie.
Yeah.
Horrible movie. But I mean, I think this could work if they do it right, but will it happen? I doubt it. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? A lot of fans are saying that they would love to have Adam Driver play Snape in the upcoming Harry Potter HBO series. And I go ahead and admit, that's a pretty good casting. I just don't think it's realistic that it could happen, but I think it would be great if it did. Guys, whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. That down. Let's move on to this, shall we? Oh, all of Middle Earth got sent into a big buzz a little while ago as it was announced that they are going to make more Lord of the Rings films, this time directed by Andy Serkis, who was, for a bit, Peter Jackson's second unit director on the original Lord of the Rings films, of course, played Gollum himself, and has gone on to direct a couple of really good little movies. So he's going to be directing this new one. And maybe even more importantly, it's being written by Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens, who wrote the screenplays for the original Lord of the Rings films, with Peter Jackson himself producing. Now, all that stuff, the original writers, Peter Jackson producing, Andy Serkis directing, that's all big and great news. Well, a new little piece of news has just come out that was confirmed by Ian McKellan himself, revealing that Ian McKellan has been asked to return as Gandalf. Woo. This comes to us from Deadline, who wrote the following. And it seems that Sir Ian McKellen could be coming back to his beloved role as J.R.R. Tolkien's wizard after revealing that he has been approached about featuring in the new Lord of the Rings films. McKellen told The Big Issue, enthusiasm for the Lord of the Rings shows no sign of abating. Only Ian McKellen would use the word abating in his standard sentencing. I can't tell you any more than that. I've just been told there are going to be more films and Gandalf will be involved, and they hope that I'll be playing him. And then he goes on to say this. The 85-year-old actor who is recovering from a fall off of a stage in Player Kings in London's West End added, when? I don't know. What the script is? Not written yet, so they better be quick. All right. When we heard new Lord of the Rings films, I think myself, like a lot of people were, okay. When we heard that the screenwriters from the original Lord of the Rings films were coming back to write it, we went, all right. That Peter Jackson was going to be producing, okay. That Andy Serkis, who was the second unit director on a couple of those films, was going to be directing, all right. But I got to say this. While all that is true and all that is big, I don't know that there's any one thing that would get people more excited than hearing that Ian McKellen would be coming back to play Gandalf. Now, he is now 25 years older than he was when he first went onto the set of Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. But you know what? He's Gandalf the White. He's supposed to look old.
Yeah, it would just take less makeup.
Yeah, and maybe he can't move around quite as well as he used to.
Yeah.
But I don't think that was ever Ian McKellen on
No.
Shadowfax.
When he was like swinging that staff around, you could tell like that was a stand-in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or him writing, like I said, writing
Yeah,
Shadowfax
of
or
course.
anything like that.
Yeah.
But, it doesn't matter. I just need his voice.
Ooh.
A wizard is never late. He arrives exactly like just hearing his voice doing it would be perfect. And while, again, I think there would be excitement about Peter Jackson producing, there would be excitement about, the original writers writing. I think Ian McKellen making it official. So, number one, he's been asked. Number two, he says he's down. Now it's just a matter of, he is 85. He's saying they better be quick. They got to get everything ready to go fairly quickly. But I think this would be not only wonderful, but I think would be very important to the fandom. Because, look, I don't want to say that the casting of one role will be the make or break difference in a box office, but you can't tell me that there's not a lot more people who'd be willing to jump on and buy a ticket to the new Lord of the Rings because they see Ian McKellen on the poster.
Absolutely.
Sure. Go ahead.
Oh no, I just said it brings a sense of like familiarity
And continuity.
and confidence and comfort. Like when you see a beloved character come back on screen, especially with the actor who played him for so long. So
even watching, I'm two episodes into Rings of Power season 2, and even watching that, I'm like, I get it. It wouldn't even make sense. But even there, I long for I wish they could have had a de-aged Ian McKellen or something like that. You know what I mean?
By the way, we don't know for sure.
No,
that he's Gandalf.
I know, but whatever.
Just saying, Anyway,
get that script ready.
Yeah, get that script
Like
because I
next
think
week.
this would be next week. I think this would be game changing. I think if they were to cast him, because look, we've already got Andy Serkis who's going to play Gollum again. That's big. But again, getting Ian McKellen to come back to play Gandalf again would be game changing. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? They have approached Ian McKellen, Sir Ian, to come back to play Gandalf again, and he wants to do it. How big of a deal do you think that would be for this movie? Would it increase your interest in seeing it? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? A lot of box office news this week. We're going to get into it a little bit later, but Inside Out 2's become the highest grossing animated film of all time, finally passing 2019's The Lion King. We've had Despicable Me, very quietly, has passed the $900 million mark.
I know. I've been keeping my eye on that.
It Ends With Us is approaching $300 million. And Alien Romulus has now passed $283 million and is closing in on 300, officially making it the second highest grossing Alien film in history. This comes from screenwriters who write the following. Per Variety, as of Sunday morning, Alien Romulus is projected to close out its third weekend in theaters with a worldwide gross of $283.5 million, including grosses from the 4-day Labor Day holiday weekend in the domestic marketplace. This far exceeds the $240.9 million global haul of 2017's Alien Covenant, making Romulus the second highest grossing movie of the entire franchise. As with its opening weekend record, it is now only behind Prometheus, which earned an overall worldwide total of $403.3 million. Now, got to remind everybody again that for Alien Romulus, they only spent $80 million making this movie. I was stunned. Now, don't get me wrong. I knew Alien Romulus wasn't a $200 million movie, but I found out how much it cost to make after I saw it. And I'm like, no way, really? Because you can see every single dollar on the screen. They did a great job. And I personally really enjoyed Alien Romulus. I thought it was a lot of fun. I think it's the best Alien film since Aliens. I mean, it's easily better than Alien Cubed, Alien Resurrection, Alien versus Predator, whatever. But I thought it was a lot of fun. It was really great. And for it to make, on an $80 million budget, $283 million, I think it's great. Now, I can already hear the detractors crying. You can't call it the second highest grossing film. You got to take inflation into consideration. I always love how smart people think they sound when they bring up inflation. Inflation is irrelevant. And here's why it's irrelevant. I've mentioned it before. I will mention it again. To bring up inflation means you have a logic fallacy in your argument. Because if you just want to bring up inflation, you are making the erroneous assumption that if that movie, whatever movie we're talking about from the 70s or 80s or early 90s, you're making an assumption that if that movie were to come out today, it would sell the exact same amount of tickets that it sold when it came out in the 70s, 80s, or 90s. And the reality is it would not. When those movies came out in the 70s, 80s, or early 90s, they didn't have to face $15 to $20 movie tickets. Do you think the same amount of people would have bought tickets at $20 instead of when they were $5? No, they wouldn't. Those movies didn't have to contend with kids and college students and young adults, hell, even guys my age, spending a ton of their expendable money on PlayStation, Xbox, video games, all that kind of stuff. Back when those movies came out, people weren't spending more time in front of their television because instead of having 14 channels, they've got all the streaming, they got all that kind of stuff, and they're spending a lot of money on their streaming. Back then, the theater business wasn't still recovering from a pandemic. And by the way, recent polls showed that almost 20% of people who were quote unquote regular moviegoers pre-pandemic have still not started going back to the movie theaters again. So again, whenever you bring up inflation, it's a fallacy because you are making an assumption that if that movie that came out 25 years ago were to come out today, it would sell the exact same number of tickets, and the reality is it would not have. Because today's movies faced a whole host of variables that movies back then did not have to face. Now, how much fewer tickets would it sell today? We don't know. There's no way to know accurately. So that's why it's completely pointless to bring up the idea of inflation. It's a fool's errand. It's a fallacy. it's logically erroneous.
Was Prometheus the big comeback for the franchise after the original?
Presumably.
That's what it was supposed to be.
Like the big one that like there was a long break.
Well,
Yeah.
but also Ridley Scott was back.
Yeah, Ridley
So-
Scott was back because he didn't direct Resurrection or Alien Cubed or
I
anything
mean
like
that
that.
had to help in ticket sales, like people's excitement
yeah.
for
Sure,
it.
and
like,
it looked great.
you know,
The movie looked great. I didn't think it ended up being very good.
I thought it was kind of jarbled, but
But again, I think this is a massive accomplishment because listen, to a lot of film fans, including me, the Alien franchise was pretty much dead. I mean, if Alien Cubed and Resurrection wasn't enough, it got drilled further into the ground with Alien vs. Predator and Alien vs. Predator Requiem. Both films that I contend there is some fun to be had in both of them, even though they're not great cinema. But this was a dead franchise. And for this little movie on an $80 million budget with no stars, no marquee list name stars, to come out and close in on $300 million, I think it's remarkable what it accomplished. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Alien Romulus is now officially the second highest grossing Alien film of all time. Not the second best. I mean, the first two best will always be Alien and Aliens. But, I mean, it marks a bit of a comeback. It's breathed new life into the franchise, and it's made bank for the studio. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we still got to talk about the filmmaker of the new film Brutalist, which is 3.5 hours long, just said that talking about runtime of movies is silly and it's 2024. We shouldn't even be talking about runtime. We're going to be talking about that a little bit. And also, Inside Out 2 has now done near the impossible. It has passed the 2019 Lion King film to become the highest grossing animated film of all time and is in the top 10 all-time biggest box office films in history. We're going to talk about those things and a couple things more. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank a couple of sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at PrizePick and Miracle Made. We want to take a second and thank a sponsor of today's episode, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. And PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. PrizePicks is the best way to get action on sports in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. You see, PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. And I was pleasantly surprised by just how quick and easy it was to get set up and registered and ready to go. Here's a couple of examples of picking your more or less. Tyreek Hill for more than 90 receiving yards, Dak Prescott for more than 263 passing yards, and CeeDee Lamb for more than 96 receiving yards. So guys, download the PrizePicks app today and use the code Campea and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code Campea on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks. Run your game. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, Miracle Made. Guys, it's hot outside and your nighttime bedroom temperature has a huge impact on your sleep quality. So if you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Miracle Made sheets are inspired by NASA and use silver-infused fabrics that are temperature regulating so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. There are just so many things that make these sheets so fantastic. We already mentioned the self-cooling properties for better quality sleep, but they're also self-cleaning. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. So go to trymiracle.com/Campea. That's TRYMIRACLE.com/Campea to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code Campea at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. So upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/Campea and use the code Campea to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/Campea to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. And thank you to our friends at PrizePicks and Miracle Made for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, there's a new film that just debuted at the Venice Film Festival called The Brutalist, which is getting rave reviews. Rave reviews. And who was the guy we were just talking about again who played Bill Riley? Coach Riley?
Brody.
Adrian Brody.
Yeah.
Adrian Brody stars in it. And by the way, he's got an Oscar already. There are people out of Venice saying this is his best performance of his life. And it's getting rave reviews. We're not here to talk about that right now, though. Because the director of the film, Brady Coburn, he made this film 3.5 hours long. 215 minutes. So 3 hours and 25 minutes long. And, you know, some people, understandably, that's a really long film, have brought up the question about the length. To which he says, you know what? It's silly to talk about length of a movie. It shouldn't matter the length of a movie. Well, we're going to talk about that. This is what they said over at Variety. Brady Coburn, who is premiering his 3.5-hour historical drama, The Brutalist, at the Venice Film Festival on Sunday, and again, it got rave reviews, is shrugging off discourse around the movie runtimes being too long. He said this film does everything that we are told that we're not allowed to do, the director said during The Brutalist's press conference. I think it's quite silly, actually, to have a conversation about runtime, because that's like criticizing a book for being 700 pages instead of 100 pages. By the way, that's an idiotic statement, and we'll talk about why in just a second. He continued that for him, it's more about how much story there is to tell. I can agree with him on that. Maybe the next thing I'll make will be 45 minutes, and I should be allowed to do it. We should all be allowed to do that. The idea that we have to fit into a box is quite silly, he said. We should be past that. It's 2024. As Harmony Korine once said, cinema is stuck in the birth canal, and I agree with him, so we should help it out. All right. Again, first of all, I want to re-emphasize again, the reaction and response and reviews coming out for this movie are spectacular. Like in the best picture of the year race, kind of spectacular. I obviously have not seen the film yet myself, but from all accounts, it's a brilliant film. Also, you guys know my personal feelings on the runtime of a movie. There is no right and no wrong runtime for movies in general. Some movies, their best runtime is 90 minutes. 90 minutes for that movie would be perfect. So sometimes you get a movie that's like, I don't know, 105 minutes, which is a little over an hour and a half. That felt like it was too long. Like if it was like 10 minutes shorter, would have been much better. At the same time, there are 2.5-hour movies that fly by, or maybe we even felt could have been another 15, 20 minutes longer, right? Every movie has a runtime that is perfect for it. And there is no one size fits all. However, I think a couple of things that he said here need to be addressed. First of all, let me say, before we get to the whole book analogy, which was an idiotic comparison, but let me talk about this for a second. Going to a movie, I say this all the time. You guys know this. What are movies? They are experiential events. And whether you like it or not, runtime is often part of that experience. Because while we may joke around about Ray's inability to sit through a movie more than 90 minutes, the reality is Ray ain't alone. There are a lot of people who will choose to go or not go to a movie because they don't want to sit in a movie theater. When you count trailers, they don't want to sit in a movie theater for 4 hours. I personally can sit in a movie theater for however long if the movie's right. That's fine, but there are a lot of people in the movie-going general audience who will look at say, do I want to sit in a movie theater for 4 hours? No. And they won't go. Because movies are experiential events. And whether you like it or not, the runtime of your movie is part of the experience. Am I saying that means no movie should be over 3 hours? No. But I'm saying it's something you got to consider when making movies. And to say that, we should... I'm a director. I am the artist. Don't bother me with the concerns of the ants that they want to or don't want to sit in a movie theater for 4 hours. They should respect my artistic vision. Again, I'm not saying that a movie can't be 3 hours, 3.5 hours, but it should and must be. If you are a storyteller, then your audience has to at least be a part of your consideration. And maybe you've got a 3.5 hour movie and you're like, you know what? We did everything we could to make this as short as we can, but to properly tell our story, this is as short as we can make it. Totally fair. Totally fair. But to say that, oh, it's ridiculous that we even have conversations about it, what you're ultimately saying is that your audience is ridiculous. And you don't care what your audience thinks or feels, and you don't care about what the audience experience is. Now, I'm sure that is not what he is saying. I'm sure that's not what he is intending to say. All right. Let me be clear. I don't think this guy's a jackass and he's intentionally belittling the audience. And by the way, there's a hell of a lot of audience out there. If you say, hey, you want to go to a 3.5 hour movie? They'd probably go, unless it's a new Lord of the Rings film, probably not. Right. So it is not silly to talk about it. It is not silly to treat movies like experiential events and understanding that runtime is part of the experience for a lot of people. Not for everybody, but for a lot of people. But this comparison he made, which is absolutely ridiculous. Let's bring this up again. When he said, having a conversation about runtime, that's like criticizing a book for being 700 pages instead of 100 pages. That is an idiotic comparison. You know why? Because if you have a book, you can sit down and read 20 pages, put it down, go have dinner, call your mom, whatever, come back, read another 40 pages, go away, come back. You can take a day, a week, a month, or a year to read that book if you want. It doesn't matter how long the book is. You can spend as much time or as little time in as many chunks of time that you want. A movie is different, particularly theatrically. You're asking a moviegoer to go and sit their ass down for 3.5 hours. And again, there's a lot of people who don't want to do that. So the idea of comparing this to a book is asinine. It's completely asinine. And again, I do not believe for a second that Brady Corbett is trying to belittle his audience. Not at all. I don't think that's what's on his mind. I don't think disrespecting the audience is on his mind, nor do I think that is his intention. I'm just saying he should be careful about how he says things, because kind of it comes across that way, even though I believe that's not his intention.
You know, like I love short runtimes. Everyone knows that. But from an artistic point of view, from his perspective, I do understand if he's making something he cares and loves about and he's proud of, you want to fit as much of what you made into the whole thing. But that's when I think that's where extended cuts may come along. You know, like you gotta shorten the movie at least for the theaters and for the audience. Like, we can't be showing 4-hour movies like in every theater, like in every.
Well, that's just it. It limits the amount of theaters you can run it in and how many you can run at those theaters.
And plus, like when we watched the Book of Mormon, the play, they even had breaks. That was what, 3 and something hours?
Well, yeah, all stage plays will have intermissions. Yeah, 100%.
There should be some consideration for that. I mean, those seats can collect ass sweat like no other, especially if the hair's not on.
Yeah, Brady, have you thought about ass sweat?
You don't want workers.
But again, it also speaks to the talent of the storyteller.
Yeah.
If you are a really talented storyteller, you should be able to tell your story with all of its important beats and all of its emotional overtones. You should be able to tell it in a reasonable amount of time. And listen, I 100% agree that there are going to be times and there are going to be stories where like a 3-hour plus runtime became necessary. All I'm saying to Brady is that don't say it's silly to even take runtime into consideration, because you're saying then essentially that it's silly to take your audience into consideration. And it is not silly to take the audience into consideration or silly to take their experience watching the movie into consideration. Again, if you did everything you could and the shortest you can make it to tell the effective story you want to tell is 3.5 hours, then that's the runtime of the movie. But this whole idea that, oh, it's silly to think about runtime. It's like complaining about the length of a book. That's a ridiculous argument and should be discarded immediately. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? In the midst of all this discussion, don't lose sight of the fact that this movie is getting brilliant reviews coming out of Venice, and I'm very excited to see it. I just think it's ridiculous to say that runtime shouldn't be a consideration, because like Jonathan pointed out, there's even practical considerations like how often can a theater even play your movie if it's over 3.5 hours. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, let's talk about this, shall we? Inside Out 2, which I think originally was projected to make $80 to $90 million on its opening weekend, ended up destroying everybody's expectations, made over $150 million on its opening weekend. And then it broke more expectations, joining the $1 billion club. And then it just kept going. And now, today, it's finally happened. According to Deadline, Inside Out 2 has finally passed 2019's Lion King to become the highest grossing animated film of all time, and taking the number 9 spot of the biggest films in history. Inside Out 2. And by the way, just as a side note, I got to throw this out there. Has there ever been a movie that has more quietly crossed the $900 million mark than Despicable Me 4?
Oh, I know. Just kept creeping along.
It just kept going.
Yep.
Just kept going and going.
Wait.
What's that?
Are you kidding me? It's at,
Yeah,
at
Despicable-
900 million?
Despicable Me,
$900
yeah.
million dollars.
4. And at first it was like, oh, this thing is going to be kind of a slog, probably stick in the 7s. It's at 915.
900. So good on them. Again, we already talked about how the fact that, you know, Blake Lively's It Ends With Us is approaching $300 million, way overperforming.
Mm-hmm.
The Alien Romulus approaching $300 million, way overperforming. All that kind of stuff. So it's pretty good. But Inside Out 2.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Here's the thing. I mentioned this a lot. I think whenever significant records get broke, we have a tendency as fans to let it become white noise, like, oh, record broke, and we just forget about it. We don't really consider it. I want everybody to think about this for a minute. In a world that we live in where we've had Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast and Frozen and Lion King and any of the other animated films in history that you can think of, we just had one that has now made $1.66 billion at the box office to become the highest grossing animated film in history. Did anybody see that coming for Inside Out 2? Nobody. There were some people who thought, yeah, you know what? I think Inside Out 2 has a chance to be the next $1 billion film.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, like, before the movie came out, I thought we're looking $700, $800, $900 million.
Yeah. I was an early adopter of this movie, if that's even a phrase, but just in terms of like, I thought this was better than the first. I thought it was going to do great. I was like, don't sleep on this movie. I never thought it would approach $1 billion.
No, and then even when it hit $1 billion, which it couldn't have happened to a better movie, getting another $600 million to catch Lion King seemed very unlikely. I mean, within the realm of possibility, but very unlikely. But it has now done it. And maybe even more remarkable is that it's in the top 10 of the highest grossing films of all time.
Wow. Of all time.
That's all crazy. Time. So obviously, let's go down this list.
Yeah.
Number 1 is still and will be for a very long time Avatar at 2.9 billion. Avengers Endgame at basically let's call it 2.8 billion. At the other Avatar 2.3, Titanic at 2.26, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens at 2.07. By the way, Star Wars Episode 7 is number 5 on the all-time worldwide. Domestically, it's still the number 1 film of all time.
Right, at 936.
Like let me just switch this over to domestic. Star Wars The Force Awakens, as in the North American box office, no film has ever made more money than it, which is pretty impressive, and I don't know when something's going to beat it. Anyway, going back to the worldwide thing here, we got Star Wars Episodes 8, we got Avengers Infinity War at 2.0 billion, Spider-Man No Way Home at 1.9, Jurassic World at 1.67, and Inside Out 2 at 1.667, beating by $5,300,000. The former #1 animated film of all time, 2019's The Lion King, at the 1.662.
It still has 19 days on its run too.
And yeah, I mean, again, it's crawling the amount of money it's making now, but the highest grossing animated film ever. It's insane. Nobody thought this was going to happen before this movie came out. Nobody. And it's just insane what it's been able to accomplish here. And again, I love that it happened to a truly wonderful film, because sometimes we get films make a whole ton of money that maybe didn't deserve it as much. But this is a totally deserving movie. It's wonderfully funny. It's heartwarming. It's charming. It's beautiful. It's everything a good Pixar film should be.
I would like you to make that call out right now. What particular film are you talking of? Because
Transformers.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Thank you.
I was just clearing my throat.
I was actually thinking of Transformers is a great
this example of that, but there are others. There are many times that great movies don't make the money they deserve, and bad movies make way more money than they deserve.
And just hearing about Despicable Me 4, which is catching me by surprise right now.
900 million
are loving going to the movies, at least in this month or past 2 months.
What is this second? It's still technically part of this. Well, second quarter, but now we're in the third quarter. It's going to be real good for the quarterlies on movie theaters.
And by the way, I should point this out too. Climbing up to the number 24 all-time spot. Check this out. Deadpool and Wolverine, which was #1 at the box office again this weekend, is now at $2.26 billion. It passed Incredibles 2 and Fate of the Furious and Iron Man 3 to get into that number 24 spot. Again, by a mile now, the #1 R-rated box office film of all time, and now at the number 24 spot. So again, congratulations to Inside Out 2, in the top 10 all-time grossing films, now the highest grossing animated film in history. What's the next animated film that can maybe compete with it?
Moana.
Maybe Moana?
Maybe.
But here's the thing. I bet it's going to be a movie that, like Inside Out 2, is one that we didn't think about. Because I thought Inside Out 2 was going to be big. I thought it was going to be a big hit. But nobody thought 1.6 billion.
I have a feeling, I have a sneaky suspicion that Inside Out 2 has been bargain therapy sessions for adults.
Oh, absolutely. It's so cathartic.
Not only that, I mean, it was released during a time where kids weren't in school. The subject matter is very, it relates to them.
Yeah.
Like a lot of
these
kids.
It relates to adults. It relates to teens. It relates to preteens.
But our viewing, I've never seen so many like even the kid right next to me, they were like 13, 14.
Yeah, there were a lot of teenagers in the theater.
I mean, I can imagine them going over and over and over again during their break.
You know why that is? Because the teenagers who were all flocking, you're right. I don't know. You don't, in an animated film, usually see that many teenagers there. These teenagers were kids when the first Inside Out came out.
Right.
And they had that wonderful memory of it. They're growing up they are Riley. And so they felt the adults, there's so much in there for adults. Adults flock to it. Families flock to it. And again, congratulations to Pixar and to Inside Out 2 for now becoming the highest grossing animated film of all time. Question is for you guys. What do you think about it? And what do you think could be the next animated film to challenge for that title? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we're now going to move on and start taking the questions that you guys have sent in to us at our tip link. By the way, I want to remind you guys about our tip link. You can send in questions anytime, 24 hours a day at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. But before we get to the questions you guys have sent in, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, my mobile service provider, and they should be yours, Mint Mobile. You know when you discover a new binge-worthy show or a song that you bump on repeat and you have to share it with your friends so they can experience just how awesome it is? That's kind of what it feels like when you discover that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. It's such an awesome deal, there is no way you can keep it to yourself. My last mobile service provider was quite good, but ever since I switched to Mint Mobile, I've enjoyed even better coverage, better phone clarity, and I'm paying less than a third of what I paid upgrade to my old provider. Say goodbye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bills to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions may apply. See Mint Mobile for details. And thank you to our friends at Mint Mobile for being my mobile service provider and for sponsoring the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's get over to the questions you guys have sent in, shall we? Jonathan, what we got up first?
Zacharias says, big fans. We love going to the movies, but it pains us to see the movie theater industry struggling. What are your thoughts on major movie chains taking a more local approach, like hosting after-movie discussion events and updating their theaters?
Well, I mean, first of all, we're seeing all that happening. I mean, first, look, more and more theaters I have found have been trying to get in writers, directors, actors to do like post-movie discussions and stuff like that. The problem with post-movie discussions is you got to get the movie theater cleared out to get ready for the next screening and the next showtime, right? So that's a big problem. As far as updating their theaters goes, all the movie theater chains are working on that. It is a hyper expensive project. Just before the pandemic, AMC spent hundreds of millions of dollars in upgrading things. Regal just announced like a $250 million investment they're putting in to upgrade a big chunk of their theaters. So all that needs to be done and more needs to be done. But again, the after movie discussions is fun, but how many people would really stick around, and it cuts into the next screening time. And upgrading theaters is definitely something they're all working on. All right, what's next?
Your Orlando Informer says, sat down last night, rewatched Wanted.
Nice.
Forgot how much I enjoyed this action flick. I know it's a little corny, but thought the world building was great. I know it's been 16 years, but do you think we will ever get a sequel to it or a TV show?
Has it been that long?
Who was in what?
So
was
James
Wanted?
McAvoy.
Oh yeah,
Angelina
that's right.
Jolie.
Yeah, sure.
Morgan Freeman, and at the time, an unknown Chris Pratt, who is great. He plays this dick of a character in it, and he's great in it. Everybody complained because ultimately, at the end of the day, Wanted, the main MacGuffin of it is this literally a loom, the old machine that weaves fabric together. And if you look very closely, if you're Morgan Freeman and have the skill and look at the patterns in the fabric, it tells you the future. And bending bullets and all the kind of, yes, there's ridiculous stuff in there, absolutely. But it's a fun movie.
Chris Pratt was in it. Chris Pratt and Terrence Stamp also.
Oh, yeah,
Are you not listening to anything I'm saying? I just taught.
No, you said Chris Evans.
Did I say Chris Evans?
No,
Yeah.
he said Chris Pratt.
Yeah, no, Chris Pratt.
That's why I heard Chris
time,
Evans when you said that.
At
Okay,
the time, a very unknown Chris Pratt.
Oh, okay. But Terrence Stamp is also in there. He's great.
And Common
Yeah,
is
Common.
in it. And like, it's a great little action film. If you've never seen it, go check it out. It's a lot of fun. But I think it's too late for them to bring it back, although I've always wanted them to do a sequel. All right, what's next?
We got Mexico Valley's Jose. Dear amigos, hi, one of two. The Ring series, gorgeous production, season 2, slightly better feeling. But I have a fundamental grudge. The whole conflict rests on Celebrimbor ignoring a bit of info, which could have easily been avoided with a calm conversation, which was the logical follow-up to season 1's last scene. Instead, we open season 2 with them frantically leaving Celebrimbor in the dark and vulnerable. Talk, guys, your elves and BFF, inexplicable. It made no sense and really bothers me. Thanks and admiration to you.
I have to fundamentally disagree. You know why? Because real life, that happens all the time.
There's no cell phones.
Well, I mean, yeah, number one, there's no cell phones, but limited communication and breakdown in communication. And how many, it's funny, Ann and I were just, we do a walk every night. We do 5 miles every day. And we were out on our walk the other night, and we were talking about how Anne was saying, particularly with her and girlfriends over the years, like, this wasn't in relation to Lord of the Rings, but just like how many conflicts have happened because of withholding certain information, not sharing feelings, not talking about certain things that would have been easily avoided if certain little choices would have been made. And so when I'm personally, and by the way, I'm not all the way on board with season 2 yet. I think it's a definitive improvement over season 1, because you know how disappointed I was in season 1. I think it's a definitive improvement, and I'm not all the way on board with season 2 yet. But that to me strikes me as more true and grounded, because how many times have we seen that happen in our lives? It happens all the time. And it had a very distinct feeling of realness to it, almost, to me. So anyway, that's just the way it struck me. Now, well, let's see how the rest of the season kind of unfolds. Hopefully it continues on an upward trajectory, but maybe it won't. All right, what's next?
Matan says, at least Disney was smart to kill the Acolyte. Amazon has kept the Citadel universe despite all of the bad reviews. What Jennifer Salk is doing what is Jennifer Salk doing at Amazon MGM head? She might be one of the worst Hollywood execs out there.
That's an idiotic thing to say. That's a completely idiotic thing. Yeah, if you want to find one thing that fails and just harp on it, fine. But this is also the studio that has made The Boys. This is also the studio that gave us The Big Sick. This is also the studio that gave us Gen V. This is also the studios that gave us Fallout. This is also the studio that gave it, I mean, on and on and on and on and on. Yes, you can point to one thing and say, I think that decision is questionable. But then to go to that one, you know what? It's like watching Michael Jordan and he misses 1-3 and going, Michael Jordan's totally overrated. He should be benched. Why are they starting him? So yeah, if you want to ignore everything else, sure, but otherwise that's a ridiculous
Well,
thing.
and then also if you look at Rotten Tomatoes, it's nowhere near the Acolyte numbers as far as
not at all. I mean, listen, I'm not a fan of the Citadel myself,
right?
But it's got its fans.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I agree. They shouldn't be pursuing it. It's cost too much money. They're not getting the return on the investment, but they think they see a future. Maybe they'll be right. Maybe they'll be wrong. The point is, though, that they've had so many wins that they can afford to take a swing at the bat. All right, what's next?
All right. Orlando Rodriguez with a $20 tip says,
oh, thank you, Orlando.
Unlike Snyder's films, Superman films starring Christopher Reeves and Brandon Routh incorporated John Williams' iconic score. James Gunn's return to this theme would be the pop heard around the world. Close your eyes and imagine the few seconds. But the problem is those two movies you mentioned are in the same world.
Well, sort of.
Ralph was supposed to be Christopher Reeve's character.
In a spirit, it was a Brandon Routh Superman Returns was supposed to be the spiritual. It wasn't meant literal to be the sequel to Christopher Reeves, but in spirit, it was meant to feel that way.
Right.
So working that in was cool. The Zack Snyder one, it was just a little glimpse of it, like just a little piece of it. And that was fine. And look, remember too, that Zack Snyder Superman had his own new theme, and it's awesome. The Hans Zimmer Superman theme for Henry Cavill's Superman, is, I'm not going to say it's as good as John Williams's.
Sure.
But it's close.
Yeah.
It's brilliant and beautiful, and it gives that character his own identity. James Gunn will not use John Williams's Superman theme. What he could do is, like they did in the Zack Snyder thing, just slip in a few bars of it here or there just to, to make an emotional note. They could do that, but actually use the theme proper, no, they won't, because they got to give this Superman his own identity, much like they gave Henry Cavill's his own identity.
Yep.
All right, what's next?
Alejandro says, have you seen the Netflix movie Leave the World Behind with Mahershala Ali and Julia Roberts? I just watched it, and it's, I don't think that it continues, but, let's see. Leave the World Behind was supposed to say, it's amazing. Also, what are your thoughts on the 2007 film Zodiac? One of my favorite movies I've ever seen.
Leave the World Behind, I really enjoyed it. I didn't love it as much as a lot of other people did, because it was very, very well received. I thought it was a good film. A little drawn out. By the end of it, I'm like, really? That's how this is playing out? But I thought it was a good film, brilliantly performed. Julia Roberts is fabulous in it, as is Mahershala Ali. And the people who play their kids, great. And who played Julia Roberts' husband again? Look it up for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it right now.
Why am I freezing on who played Julia Roberts? It's a well-known, famous actor, and I'm freezing on who it is. Anyway, as far as Zodiac goes, It's one of those 5 or 6 films that I have that I don't like nearly as much as almost everybody else I know does.
Ethan Hawke.
Ethan Hawke.
Handsome Hawke.
Handsome Hawke. Almost everybody I know truly loves that Zodiac film. I thought it was okay, to be honest with you. Look, we all have 5 to 10 movies that everybody else loves that we don't really like as much. We all have them. For me, it's like Blade Runner, the original Halloween, and Zodiac is one of the ones for me, to be honest with you. But again, I totally acknowledge it is absolutely beloved amongst almost everybody else I know. All right, what's next?
It's preschool Predator.
Wow.
Hola, fellow Campians. You say how unlikely it is for Sonic 3 to reach $1 billion, but don't forget, Toy Story made $390, Toy Story 2 made $490, and the third made $1 billion. The hype for this movie dwarfs the last two, plus 2 Jim Carreys instantly doubles the money.
You know what? That is the first legitimate point of statistical fact argument that somebody has made to me is the Toy Story thing. Now, point in fact, though, my rebuttal to the Toy Story one, though, is look this up, Jonathan.
Yeah.
When did Toy Story 2 come out and when did Toy Story 3 come out?
Okay.
Now, the Toy Story films, up until before Toy Story 3 came out,
I have numbers.
were basically considered to be the greatest animated films of all time by a lot of people, right? Like Toy Story 2, for example, for the longest time was like one of the only wide release films in history to hold a 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
So you got 95 was Toy Story, 99 was 2, and then a big jump to 3 was 2010.
So that's the thing. It was literally, so what was it, 99?
Yeah, 99 was 2.
To when's the third one?
10. So 11 years.
So 11 years.
Yeah.
11 years of one of the most respected, one of the most celebrated, one of the most popular animated franchises in history. And it became just the third animated, and Toy Story 3 became just the third animated film in history to be nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. None of those things apply to Sonic. Sonic 1 just came out. Sonic 2 immediately came out right after that. And now Sonic 3. But here's my question. Do you think there are $600 million worth of people? Because remember, Sonic 2, which I love the Sonic movies. I cannot wait for Sonic 3. But we just had them in theaters. And are you telling me there are $600 million worth of Sonic fans who didn't go to see Sonic 1 and 2? So again, I think the argument you bring up is the first valid statistical argument that has been brought to the table for me, and I applaud you for it. Again, I think there are major differences between the Toy Story comparison, though, and the Sonic comparison. But thinking that a movie whose sequel just came out, a couple years ago, that made $400 million, and it was already a sequel,
well, even
it's going to jump nearly 3 times its box office to get to the $1 billion mark. It's not going to happen.
I'm not sure about the billion. I would love for it to do that, but the only thing I can say in confidence is this third movie is gonna put the other 2 movies box office
just because
to shame, I think.
I went and watched.
I think it'll be the biggest one.
Yeah.
I think we'll continue to see the Sonic box office go up.
Yeah.
I'm thinking 600 million is realistic.
and it looks so much better than the other. Like
Yeah.
it just keeps getting better looking.
But
too.
what if the movie sucks?
I know. Well,
Right? We always bring that up, right? We always got to bring that up. Okay, no, we say that now, but we got to wait to see how good the movie is. But yeah, there is absolutely zero chance. Zero chance that Sonic 3 makes $1 billion.
I will say this: it will make 750 million.
That's big.
Because
that's
I'm
nearly doubling the last one.
That's what I'm doing right now. I'm combining how much the first film made plus the second film, and I'm just hoping it makes more than both of them combined.
Because here's the question: you got to ask. Here's the question:
Yeah.
Who's going to see this movie that didn't go to see the other 2?
Right.
That's the question we got to ask, right?
Right.
And is there double the amount of people out there to go to the next one that didn't see the first 2? I'm not sure.
And also, is there confidence now in these films? Because maybe some people waited to watch them, like Jonathan just watched Sonic 1 at home.
Right, but you can say that after Sonic 1, right?
Right.
And like Sonic 1 was so good, and so because Sonic 1 was so great, the second one made more. It made 25% more.
It is
And
competing.
I can see this one making 25% more than Sonic 2
And that's
did.
reasonable because I was like, oh, well, the How to Train Your Dragon franchise is huge. I would think it's huge. I just think it's very popular.
And they're awesome.
The first one made 500. The second one made 600. And then the third one dropped back down to like 5 something. And I would have thought that was like 600 or 700 million.
Yeah, you've reached the audience that you're going to reach. Is there room for it to go up? Absolutely, and I think it will.
Yeah.
But again, $1 billion is completely unrealistic. No chance. No
I'm
chance it
looking
makes $1
forward to
billion.
it, though.
I
looking forward to it.
cannot wait to see Sonic 3.
Yeah.
I am so stoked for this movie. It's just not going to be $1 billion film. That's all. And by the way, the $1 billion mark is not the mark of success.
That's what I was about to say, too. Let's look
And
at the
this is what I
franchise.
get worried with all these people going. By the way, this ridiculous, stupid notion that it's going to make $1 billion. The people going around purporting this, what you're doing is you're setting up people to shit on the movie when it doesn't make $1 billion. Because if this movie makes $500 million, which would be the biggest in the franchise and represent a 20% jump from number 2, if this movie makes $500 million, we should be popping bottles and celebrating its success. But all these people running around talking about, oh, it's going to be $1 billion, it's going to be $1 billion. What you're doing is you're giving ammunition to people to shit on the movie if it doesn't. Even if it's a huge success at, like, say, $600 million. Oh, it didn't come anywhere near $1 billion. That's not the measure of success. The second movie made $400 million. If this one can go up, it's a huge win.
Yeah.
And we should be celebrating it, not setting it up for disappointment. Anyway, that's just my thought. All right, what's next?
Melon says, watch the Hobbit trilogy over the weekend, and I have to say they are not Lord of the Rings by a long shot. But damn, did they give me so much joy. Didn't need 3 movies, but there were so many wholesome moments. All of the dwarves were so endearing. It was supposed to be 2 originally.
Originally they were going to do it as 2, which even then was a stretch because The Hobbit, the book,
Tiniest book.
is shorter than any of the 3 Lord of the Rings books. And they did each of the Lord of the Rings movies 1 film per book. So they were originally going to do The Hobbit as 2 movies. And at the last minute, they decided, let's make it 3 movies.
Yeah.
And that was a mistake. And you're right. The Hobbit trilogy is nowhere near as good as the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. But with the exception of the third film, which I thought there were some fundamental mistakes in the third film, I think there was a lot of joy to be found in those Hobbit films. The barrel riding scene, amazing. One of my most heartwarming scenes is when that classic scene from the book, when the dwarves first show up to Bilbo's house. Smash the plates. That's what Bilbo Baggins hates. It's just so magical. That scene where Thorin Oakenshield has that big heart-to-heart with Bilbo. Smaug was brilliant.
Oh, and that terrifying troll or the
Oh,
villain.
yeah.
Azra or Alra. I don't know
Yeah.
what.
The Goblin King dude
Yeah.
who's down and the things. I mean, listen, there's a lot of good stuff to be had. The problem is we all judged it, and I'm guilty of this too. We judged it in comparison to some of the greatest films of all time, the Lord of the Rings films. Again, could they have been better? Yes, but I agree with you. I think there's a lot of joy to be had in those films.
And the effect is like Age of Ultron to me. It takes time.
Yeah,
appreciate
sometimes.
it.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's
To
a good
break
comparison.
away
Maybe it
from
takes a
all
little
the
time.
expectancies and like the hopes and just watch it on its own. And Age of Ultron, it's
Ages
absolutely
very well.
a better film now to
I agree.
me than before.
100% I agree.
Right.
All right, what's next?
Full Boyle says, at AMC, what's the difference between Dolby Cinema and Laser? Is Dolby Cinema worth the higher ticket price? There's a few differences.
There are a few differences. First of all, the Dolby at AMC, or also known as the Dolby Prime, uses a patented dual laser projection system that has remarkable contrast. By that, I mean the blacks are the deepest blacks you've ever seen on screen. The brights have a higher brightness peak and a much better dynamic range than others. Also incorporated with the Dolby cinemas is the Dolby Atmos surround sound system, which is another level of it. So a lot of the AMC theaters have a laser projection system, but the Dolby has a dual laser projection system that, again, gives you richer colors, deeper blacks, whiter whites. Look, all the screens at AMC look really good, but the Dolby Prime is just that next level up, including the sound system that goes with it. All right, what's next?
And reclining chairs don't hurt either.
Yep, those are pretty nice.
Full Boil says, when I'm on virtual calls, I use my Logitech webcam's built-in microphone, and the results are okay at best. Are there any standalone microphones that you recommend? My budget is $150.
Oh, 150?
Wow.
Dude, you got a lot of options.
Yeah.
Anything from, look, you can even look at some lapel mics at that price. If you want to get a little lapel mic, you can get a little shotgun mic that sits beside your camera and points right at you. Or if you just want to get like something like this, there is the Shure I think it's called the SM57 that I use. I don't have that right now. I'm using something else right now. But there's a lot of USB microphones by Blue that are really, really good. That will definitely up your game. And you can get some of these for like $50. Honestly, simplest thing, jump on Amazon, look up USB mic, and look around the $50 to $100 range. You will find some excellent mics. Look for the really well-reviewed ones, and you have a lot of like if you're going to tell me like $30 is my limit, I'd say okay, that limits your options, but there are a few options. But with your price range, there are a lot of great options, and you could probably buy a great USB mic and still have $50 left over to buy like an arm like this to give yourself a nice moving arm. It's great. $150 is a great budget. Just hop on Amazon, do some searching, and you'll find something really good. All right, what's next?
Chessman says, I was just thinking about how you could make any movie Inside Out style because they're just telling a story and then making a narrative about the main character's thoughts and process. John Wick Inside Out, where we get to meet Anger's cousin, Murderous Rage.
Murderous Rage. Here's who do you get as a step up from Lewis Black, though? Like Lewis Black is Anger. Who do you get that's even angrier sounding than that to be Murderous Rage?
Yeah. Sometimes you.
Maybe me.
True.
I can't. No, Lewis Black's got me.
No, sometimes you.
Sometimes me?
I'm going to say sometimes you.
Really?
Sometimes, yeah, over Lewis Black, he has this very like old man on the porch sometimes reaction. But with you, sometimes you get into like this. I don't know if he's gonna run us over right now.
He's gonna run us over,
or something like that. Yeah, there's a difference between.
But that's only on the show. Like I'm never like that off the show.
But I mean,
somebody like Lewis Black, who I just get feeling is like that all the time. I don't know. All right, what's next?
Jared Oberfeld says Labor Day weekend arrives and Disney enters a carriage dispute with a TV provider.
Yep.
Does this sound familiar? Oh, right. This happened same time last year. Know what, John? Disney's empire can burn to ground, and I will happily join you pissing on the ashes.
Right, except in this situation, I don't really think it's Disney's fault. So they're having a dispute right now with DirecTV. I mean, look, their deal expired, and they're trying to come up with a proper fees package that DirecTV thinks is fair to them and Disney thinks is fair to them regarding market value and all that kind of stuff. And when Disney did not agree with DirecTV pulled the Disney channels off their thing, which is their right to do. That includes ESPN, because there were people watching some tennis and some football games, and all of a sudden the channel went black. But that was DirecTV's decision to pull the channel down because, and they were within their rights to do so, because the two sides can't come to an agreement. And I'll be honest with you, while I don't know all the fine details, on the surface reporting that I've read, I don't really blame. How often do you hear me say this? I don't really blame Disney on this one. I'm not saying it's all DirecTV's fault, not at all, but there is nuance to this that I think you need to look into. All right, what's next?
Dexter says, sorry, Lion King, there can be only one. Inside Out 2 finally takes that crown. I'm popping bottles today, folks. I didn't love Lion King 2019, but I loved this movie. That 100-day theatrical window paid off. If only we'd been saying this all along.
Yeah, and let's be honest. It's not like any movie that put out a 100-day release thing was going to make $1.6 billion, right? But clearly it worked for Inside Out 2. I, for one, did love the 2019 Lion King. I don't think it's anywhere near as good as the original animated Lion King, but I really enjoyed it. But again, I could not be happier for Inside Out 2. I think it's great. And finally, there won't be any more discussion about, well, wait a minute, I thought Lion King was live action. Idiots. Lion King is not live action. There are no cameras, no sets, no costumes, No actors. The entire movie was made in a computer. It is an animated film. Stop that stupidity of talking about it like it's a live action film. It is animated. But now we don't have to worry about that because a film that everybody understands as an animated film is now the #1 animated film. All right, what's next?
Murray Reich says, I wonder what Bob Chapek has to say about the all-time animated Inside Out 2 box office success.
Again, Bob Chapek famously made those comments about, adults don't want animated movies. Nobody can, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I mean, I think they've made their point. And guess what? When Moana 2 comes out, it's going to make the point even more. When Frozen 3 comes out, it's going to make the point even more. When Zootopia comes out, it's going to make the point even more. I mean, I took a lot of issues with Bob Chapek's behind the scenes move. Again, his power restructuring there, where he took all the power away from the creatives and created new layers of middle management and gave all supreme authority to his lackey, to his banker buddy. That's when I knew Disney was really in trouble. But I didn't really think Bob Chapek was completely out of touch until that he made that comment about animation. Animation, schmanimation. I mean, adults don't really care about animation. Nobody really wants to go to the movies to watch animation. Inside Out 2 just made $1.6 billion.
And also, he was given an assignment. He was given a task. And a lot of the things that he decided you could see were to get to that goal. It's just when he opened his mouth and gave his thoughts about, like, properties and, like things that, like, Disney has, like, is proud of is when things started ruffling people's feathers.
Yeah, but again, to me, the big one was, though, going back to the whole power structure thing. Under Bob Iger, for all the rights and wrongs that he did in his career, he primarily put the power in the hands of creative people. He let Kevin Feige run Marvel as he see fit. He let Alan Horn, who is maybe the best movie executive in the history of the business. He let Alan Horn, who was a massively experienced creative as a producer and as a studio head, he let him govern the Disney slate of movies, including Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, whatever. He let the creatives run creative and make the decisions for it. One of the first things Bob Chapek did was he stripped the power away from the creatives, created new layers of middle management where he put business people in charge of.
Right.
And suddenly bankers were making creative decisions about what content would get made and where it would go. And that was, I think, the beginning of the fall of Bob Chapek.
And in order to trust anybody, I think it's like you have to have some sort of relationship or some sort of something, like in order to put like that trust that he by Iger put into those personnel, he had to have like some sort of...
and Chapek destroyed all that. Just think about the Scarlett Johansson lawsuit.
Right.
He tried to F Scarlett Johansson over, and Scarlett Johansson, who loves Disney, sued him. And she won. And it's like he was destroying relationships with creatives, destroying relationships with talent. Anyway, it's just, it's a very good thing that Papa Iger came back. And we're just starting to see the results of him coming back.
We really need a movie about it. Like just some TV
someday
movie.
That would be interesting. All right, what's next?
Murray Reichs has finally got the chance to see Twisters, especially was my first 40X experience. At first, during the trailer, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this.
Right.
But then when the movie started, I was getting used to the motion. Overall, movie was entertaining and funny.
All right, I got to read you. Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah. Twisters was my first 4DS experience too. And I had a really good time. I don't think I would do it for many movies, but a movie like Twister, it was perfect for it. Buddy Soul decided to go see Twister in 4DX.
Oh, did he?
He wrote me this on Saturday. I just saw Twisters in Regal 4DX Theater, and I would not wish this experience on my worst enemy.
Oh, he didn't like it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's for some people. It's
not for everybody. Your sister Olive.
Yeah.
Your and Ann's sister Olive did not enjoy the experience. So it's not for everybody, but I had a good time. Yeah. All right, what's next?
Oh, we got Drew Gretsch, who says, "Hi, John and crew. I just started film school.
Congrats, man. That's awesome.
My love of film began with Star Wars The Force Awakens. I remember absolutely everything about seeing the movie for the first time on opening weekend when I was 10. Man.
Oh, you youngin'.
10. Listen, I mean, mine was different. Mine was like my earliest childhood memory. So I was younger than you. Is the first Star Wars movie. when I remember as a child, it's my earliest childhood memory, my mom showing me Star Wars for the first time. And it's not hyperbole to say it really kind of helped path out the direction my life would go. I became enamored with movies ever since I was a child, and the magic of movies and the power of movies. That even though I was working in, led me to work in visual effects for a while, but even when I was working in law, like my real passion was still movies, and I started a little blog just so I could talk about movies. I eventually left the legal field so I could work in just talking about movies. I mean, it's amazing that you have that experience, and that's so exciting that it's led you to film school. I'll tell you why too, because a lot of people say they have dreams, but they never actually do anything about it. You're like, I have this dream now, and you're actually taking the steps you need to take to do it. It's risky, it's expensive, but you're chasing your dream, and I think that's awesome. Good on you, man. All right, what's next?
Sonic Makes a Billion says, had a double feature this weekend with The Crow and Blink Twice, and honestly, both are such great movies. I definitely think Channing Tatum's best acting in any film I've seen him in, by far. Slowly becoming an A-list actor, and Bill Skarsgård is always amazing.
You know what's funny? Look, The Crow, to me, not good.
Oh, did you actually go see?
Yeah, finally got around to seeing it. But the things that a lot of people were saying about the action being great, I love the action. I thought the action was wonderful. I kind of liked what they were going for. I like Skarsgård's performance. Actually, right now, listen, it's got a 22% critic rating, but it's got a 65% audience rating.
That's good.
Which is not great, but I mean, generally
Fresh.
speaking, people who went to go see The Crow walking out going, yeah, I enjoyed that. I'm not going to say I enjoyed it, but I will say that I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. And it's not the steaming pile of garbage like a lot of people are expecting it to be. Again, I wouldn't recommend it, and I'm not planning on ever going to see it again. But it had upside. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, to be honest with you. All right, what's next?
Tyler Fletcher says, I'm surprised Joker 2 tickets aren't on sale yet. I check every day, and I also know the cinemas, and they never know with the tickets still not on sale. Could this affect the opening numbers? The first Joker movie tickets were already selling.
Nah, I mean, listen, what are we at? We're at September 3rd, 2nd? The movie doesn't come out for another month.
Yeah.
It's a month away.
Yeah, hold your horses.
How many people, like, unless it's a huge event film like an Avengers, who buys their tickets a month in advance? So, look, I expect the tickets to go on sale relatively soon, but there's nobody out there going, I want to buy my Joker tickets today. They're not available today, then I'm not going to see it.
I'm going to be honest.
What's that?
I would buy my Sonic 3 tickets if they went up sale today.
Sure. I mean, yeah,
but that's like a thing for you. But
for the
are you
general
not
public,
going
yeah.
to go see Sonic if the tickets aren't available today?
Right.
Or are you just going to buy them when they do go on sale? So no, I look, the movie's still a month away, and no, the tickets not being on sale yet are in zero way going to affect its box office. Zero. Now, if they didn't put the tickets on sale until the day the movie opened, sure, that would affect box office. But this isn't going to affect box office at all. All right, what's next?
we got Ric Flair's Martini. I honestly believe that, like Willow, The Acolyte will be removed from Disney Plus in a few months as part of a content purge, since both shows have a vocal minority of passionate fans. But overall, viewership that was very low. Thoughts? P.S. Woo!
Yeah, I mean, I can see them pulling it off Disney Plus. Because as long as it's up there, they got to continue to pay people.
If people aren't watching it, it's a cost.
Like,
So-
this is the thing people forget. People think streaming services are just like your own personal hard drive. Oh, what's the problem? Just put it on the hard drive that people can access. Doesn't cost you anything. Yes, it does. Contracts and deals with talent and producers and actors and writers and directors and musicians and all that kind of stuff. There are licensing fees that need to be continually paid out as long as it's on their streaming service. And like Willow, they're like, look, we had no success with Willow. Why would we keep it online when it's going to cost us more money than it's ever going to make us? If they determine that, you know what, keeping The Acolyte up on Disney Plus is in the long run going to cost us more money than it makes us, it's going to make us lose money, then yeah, at some point they're going to pull it. I would not be surprised at all if they pulled The Acolyte, and maybe even pulled it relatively soon. I don't know that they will, but I suspect they might. All right, what's next?
Don't You Blame the Movie says, I wanted The Crow to be good, but the film's biggest flaw was that they wanted me to believe this relationship was worthy of transcending life and death, but they had no chemistry. Bad dialogue and taking pills and booze was meant to be romantic. Gore was great.
I will say this. I think there may have only been 2 movies ever that have convinced me that a relationship transcends life and death. The Princess Bride. Was that what you just
literally was going to say Princess Bride?
That's it. As you wish. Like that movie convinced me right away that their love is a love that transcends. I might even say Deadpool. Ryan Reynolds and McKellan completely convinced me in that first movie that he would move heaven and earth for her. Most other movies that have romances, I choose to buy into it because they tell me that this is a love that is so great. So I choose to buy into it. But it's very, 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 very rare for me that I find a romantic relationship in a movie that truly emotionally made me believe that this relationship was life and death.
Come on, Wally and Eva.
No, even it was.
Well,
cute.
they're robots, so they're not. Unless they get destroyed, they
That's
be
what's
rebuilt.
funny about it.
That was cute.
Robots can love too.
Eva. That's so adorable. It is adorable. It is adorable. But yeah, so while I agree that the movie didn't convince me of that, I don't know that there's many. I don't know if I can count on more than one hand the amount of movies that would make me believe it. Because I'll tell you this. I know this is unpopular. The original movie didn't convince me of that either. I know that's unpopular to say, but it's the truth. So I agree with you, but that in and of itself wasn't really a sticking point for me personally. But I could see why it would be for you. All right, what's next?
Richard Barclay says, hi from the UK. I just wanted to recommend the documentary RoboDoc, the creation of RoboCop on Prime Video. Oh, you might like that, Ray. It's a really deep dive, like 5 hours of content into the making of the movie with a ton of interviews and behind the scenes footage.
I'll be honest with you. That's too much for me.
That's too much.
5 hours is too much. I don't think I could watch it.
Never should have mentioned 5 hours. I would have watched it.
Yeah, if you told me it was like a solid 2-hour documentary, I would be fascinated
I'm guessing
by
it's a series.
Yeah,
if it's a series, that's different.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I did start watching it, but I never finished it, obviously.
But I just don't know about watching a making of thing that's 3 times longer. It's not literally, but that is like twice as long as the content itself.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean,
There's a lot of
I've
people
never even heard of it. I've never
Yeah.
even heard of this thing. So, but I'd be curious to check it out.
Well,
Thanks for putting it on my radar, man.
And RoboCop has one of my favorite goosebumps scenes when he first walks in that robot suit.
Oh,
and
yeah.
all the,
So iconic.
and you just see the feet, and you hear the. And
It was
everyone's looking.
revolutionary at the time.
It was so awesome.
revolutionary. All right, what's next?
Chris Reeve of Krypton says John Roca mentioned last week on his show Geek Buddies that he saw the Christopher Reeve documentary last week and spoiled that the eulogy by Robin Williams at Reeve's funeral is in it. I don't think I'm ready for the tears.
Look, all I know is that at CinemaCon, when they showed us, this is all the way back in April, they showed us the trailer and a preview for Superman, this Christopher Reeve documentary. And I have never had tears well up in my eyes over a trailer. This never happened to me. And this did it. The entire 6,000 seat auditorium was in tears watching this trailer. I just can't wait to watch it. I cannot wait. All right, what's next?
Toasted Shoes says, hey, John, I attended the Australian premiere of Beetlejuice. I'm happy to say I had a blast. I like you, don't have nostalgia for the original movie or am a huge fan, but love the sequel. Felt like a natural continuation of the original.
Again, listen, I have not had high hopes for it, to be honest with you. I still don't know why they're making it, but the box office trajectory and the projections are very strong. Right now, it's got a 78% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is a strong rating. And I've kind of liked the trailers. I wasn't interested in the movie before, but I am interested in it now, and I'm looking forward to seeing it this week. So I'm glad you had a blast with it. I hope it resonates with most audiences.
All right. And then just finally, we just have Anonymous tipped $5. So
Thank you so much, Anonymous, just for tipping in to support the channel. And guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making this show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those questions to the tip link. Number one, because you gave us fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported our channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. I want to thank the people in the room with me, Ray Ora,
See you guys tomorrow.
Jonathan Voico.
See you guys.
My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.